Let's start with the big story that we are tracking today, where after the optics and the symbolism of day one, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will today hold bilateral talks and sign agreements on oil and gas, renewable energy, science and technology and other cooperation. The Prime Minister Netanyahu is accompanied by a 130-member delegation drawn from the cyber and agriculture sectors as well as from defence. Now, on the second day of the Israeli Prime Minister's visit, the two countries are also likely to discuss defence, cyber security and innovation, agriculture, Ayurveda and also cooperation in water technology. Now, on Sunday, Prime Minister Narendra Modi went to the Delhi airport to personally receive his Israeli counterpart, who is the first Israeli Prime Minister to visit India in more than a decade. The Prime Minister Modi hugged and also shook hands with the Israeli leader, with whom he had developed a very warm rapport during his visit to Israel last year. Now, the leaders also visited the Teen Murti Memorial to pay homage to the soldiers who died in Haifa during the First World War. Now, the ceremony marked the formal renaming of the Teen Murti Chowk as the Teen Murti Haifa Chowk. Now, Haifa is a port city in Israel. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu also met with India's External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj on Sunday, and both leaders stressed on the emotional connect between India and Israel. Now, the two countries have of course grown closer since Narendra Modi became the Prime Minister of India in the year 2014, widening commercial cooperation beyond their long-standing defence ties. Now, India is Israel's biggest arms market, where it buys a whopping $1 billion in terms of the military hardware from the state of Israel. Now, the two countries have also grown closer since Narendra Modi became the Indian Prime Minister in the year 2014, widening commercial cooperation beyond the long-standing defence ties, and it now remains to be seen as to how much further this relationship can actually be taken. Now, 6 months ago, Prime Minister Narendra Modi set the tone with a historic visit to the state of Israel. Many called that his boldest foreign policy move yet. And that friendship has now gone a step further. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has reciprocated. He's, of course, landed in Delhi for a 6-day visit on the invitation of Narendra Modi. The importance of India attaches to Netanyahu's visit was evident from the fact that the Indian Prime Minister broke protocol to receive Netanyahu at the airport. But beyond the symbolism, there's much more on the agenda: defence, water, innovation and, of course, Bollywood as well.
It was a special welcome for a special visit. Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu landed in Delhi on a pleasant Sunday afternoon. It's only the second visit by an Israeli premier ever. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi broke protocol and drove down to the Delhi airport to personally receive the Israeli PM, just as Netanyahu had when Prime Minister Modi visited Israel 6 months ago. It was clear from their hugs and handshakes that their friendship and personal chemistry was as strong as ever. And in their tweets, both the leaders referred repeatedly to each other as friends. India formally sealed the friendship by renaming the Teen Murti Square in the heart of the national capital Delhi as Teen Murti Haifa Chowk. Haifa marks the enduring bond between India and Israel. Exactly 100 years ago, Indian forces liberated the city of Haifa during the First World War. Prime Minister Modi, in fact, visited Haifa during his Israel trip and paid homage to the Indian soldiers whose sacrifice helped protect Haifa. The Prime Ministers paid homage to the fallen soldiers, and Prime Minister Modi wrote in the visitor's book, "It is the 100th anniversary of the end of World War I. Many golden pages of the sacrifices of Indian braves are written in the history of both world wars. One of these pages was written 100 years ago in the sacrifice of Indian soldiers at Haifa. The sacrifice commemorated at Teen Murti observes its centenary. Naming the spot as Teen Murti Haifa Chowk marks this historic occasion. In the presence of the Prime Minister of Israel, we pay homage to the brave soldiers, salute to the great Indian traditions of selfless sacrifice and penance." Now, 100 years later, India and Israel will seek to set their bilateral ties on a higher trajectory during Benjamin Netanyahu's visit to India. On this 6-day trip, the Israeli PM brings with him a 130-member delegation aiming to strengthen trade and defense relations. Israel needs large markets for its export-driven economy and has been working towards deepening ties with India. The two leaders will hold comprehensive talks in Delhi, and Prime Minister Modi will take his Israeli friend on a visit to his home state of Gujarat, looking to rekindle their bromance over the next few days as their two nations seize the opportunity of a rapidly changing world order. Bureau Report, WION.
And also, as India and Israel look back at 25 years of bilateral ties and also look ahead to open new vistas, the question which everyone is asking is, what is the next big thing in the India-Israel ties? Listen in to the Israeli ambassador to India.
I would say that the headline or the most important element of what we want to put together on the joint table is innovation as a cross-cutting issue. Innovation that could touch any of the areas in which we cooperate. Innovation could be in the field of defense, and innovation could be in the field of agriculture. Innovation could be in the field of IT, of R&D. But we see it as a cross-cutting issue, and this will dominate, I would say, the agenda.
Now it flows from what Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said during Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Israel in July last year. The first ever Indian premier who had visited the state of Israel, Netanyahu at that time had said, and I quote, "We are setting up a $40 million innovation fund as the seed for greater cooperation on technology between us. I believe that the formula for success is I2T2, that equals Indian talent times Israeli technology equals Israel-India ties for tomorrow," unquote. So this is what the Israeli Prime Minister had to say about the India-Israel relationship. And also India and Israel have agreed to use the $40 million innovation fund for innovation, and I quote, "increase economic cooperation, boost research and development." Each country will allocate about $4 million per year over a period of 5-year period, and it will be run by the Israeli Innovation Authority in collaboration with India's Ministry of Science and Technology.
Be technology for solving the problems of society and across the board, whether you're talking about agriculture, medicine, education, homeland security or defense. And the ability of young people to develop these technologies relevant to the society in which they live, and having venture capital to support startups which will use this technology. I think this is something in which India can learn a lot from Israel. We can collaborate with them. There are areas in which we can contribute to a very substantial, mutually beneficial cooperation.
Project is an example of Israel engaging in Make in India, because the Spike project can be implemented through a partnership between an Israeli company, an Indian company.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Narendra Modi wants India to approach agriculture and water from a very strategic perspective. And this is, of course, where the partnership with Israel will prove to be beneficial. Well, we keep using the word historic, and this visit of Prime Minister Netanyahu is in more ways than one. Now, Benjamin Netanyahu is only the fourth world leader for whom the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has broken protocol and has personally received him at the airport. Now, he did it when the then US President Barack Obama had come to India in the year 2015. Then last year when the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi came calling, and again when the Bangladeshi Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina visited India. And now it is the turn of Benjamin Netanyahu to be received with such warmth by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Now, Barack Obama was, of course, invited by Prime Minister Modi to be the chief guest of the Republic Day parade on the 26th of January in 2015. When the then US President arrived in New Delhi, Prime Minister Modi had gone to the airport to personally receive him and his wife Michelle Obama as well. And then in January last year, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi, was invited as the chief guest of the Republic Day parade. Now, once again, Prime Minister Modi set aside protocol to welcome the Crown Prince at the airport. And also when the Bangladeshi Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina came to India in April last year, her first visit after Narendra Modi had taken office, he went personally to the airport to welcome the Bangladeshi Premier as well. And then again, Prime Minister Modi personally received Benjamin Netanyahu, just as the Israeli Prime Minister had done when Prime Minister Modi had gone to Tel Aviv 6 months ago.